Every single year, we watch one of the absolute most staggering biological events on Earth happen right outside our windows. And let's be honest, most of us barely give it a second thought. Well, unless we're complaining about seasonal allergies, right? We pack away our winter coats, we soak up the warmer air, and we treat this complete, miraculous transformation of our environment as something entirely mundane. But today in this explainer, we are completely changing how we view this seemingly ordinary annual event. We're going to take some deeply intriguing concepts from a philosophical source text and look at the raw mechanics of nature through a highly analytical lens. We'll be breaking down the arguments from this material to really challenge how we perceive the natural world. So get ready to have your perspective totally shifted on something you've likely watched happen your entire life, probably without ever fully realizing the sheer magnitude of what's actually going on.
Okay, let's dive into this. I want you to picture the absolute dead of winter. Imagine walking through a dense forest in the middle of January. It's freezing. The trees are completely bare, stripped of all their leaves, essentially just standing there like lifeless wooden pillars against a frozen gray sky. Biologically speaking, their sap has plummeted deep down into their roots, and their visible structures are totally shut down, practically indistinguishable from dead wood. Now, ask yourself, have you ever truly paused to grasp the sheer magnitude of the biological explosion that happens the absolute second the temperature shifts? We usually just write it off as the changing of the seasons, thinking, oh, it's getting warmer now. But in doing so, we are entirely missing the staggering reality of the physical reconstruction happening all around us. It is not just a gradual thawing out. No, it's a highly coordinated, incredibly complex event happening on a planetary scale.
Because we are talking about billions of trees worldwide. Billions. To put that massive number into perspective, the quantity of these individual biological structures dwarfs the entire human population many times over. Just imagine if billions of dormant factories across the globe suddenly, on the exact same day, powered up their assembly lines. Imagine them pulling thousands of gallons of water from the earth, synthesizing complex chemical compounds, producing chlorophyll, and building entirely new organic structures, all without a central brain or a project manager. In a matter of mere weeks, every single one of these seemingly dead wooden structures simultaneously sprouts leaves, blossoms, and comes roaring back to life. It's an astronomical logistical feat. It happens globally, all at once, and requires an unfathomable amount of energy and precision.
So, the crucial point is, our source text challenges us to completely reframe our thinking here. It asks us to stop seeing spring as just a date on the calendar or some predictable, passive shift in the weather patterns. Instead, we need to start seeing it as a flawless, large-scale blueprint for sudden resurrection, a massive synchronized reconstruction project. According to this framework, those lifeless wooden pillars aren't just slowly waking up from a nap. They are being suddenly clothed in incredibly complex living biology. Think about the crazy engineering required to push water hundreds of feet into the air against gravity, perfectly unfurling fragile leaves and intricate blossoms across billions of branches. The text argues that this is a highly active, perfectly coordinated revival that executes flawlessly, year after year, without a single failure in its design. And this brings us to a really fascinating core theological argument presented in our source. The scholar Bediuzzaman outlines this exact concept in a text known as the 10th word, presenting a powerful analogy that links physical nature directly to theology. Basically, he breaks down how this natural phenomenon, the sudden reconstruction of trees in spring, serves as a direct logical proof for the theological concept of sudden bodily resurrection in the afterlife. Historically, human beings have really struggled with the philosophical hurdle of resurrection. People naturally ask, how can dust and decayed bones possibly be reassembled into a living person? Well, the text proposes an answer. If you struggle to believe that a massive reconstruction of bodies is possible, you simply need to look at the forest. Billions of complex biological structures are flawlessly reassembled from essentially dead matter at lightning speed every single spring. The author is arguing that the proof of concept is already happening right here on Earth.
Let's move to and see how this builds into a major philosophical paradigm shift regarding how creation actually operates. The text asks us to distinguish between two entirely different environments or dimensions of creation, the realm of wisdom and the realm of power. Grasping this distinction is absolutely crucial for unlocking the author's entire argument. It addresses a fundamental question. If an afterlife involves sudden,
instantaneous resurrection, why do things take so much time and effort to grow here on Earth? The text posits that we are mistakenly applying the operating system of our current physical universe to a completely different theoretical dimension. Understanding how these two distinct realms operate explains the vast difference between gradual, earthly biological growth and sudden, instantaneous revival.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how brilliantly it unpacks this dichotomy. The source defines our physical Earth as the realm of wisdom. In this earthly realm, things operate on a strict curve of time and causality. It's like building a house. You absolutely need an architect, raw materials like bricks and cement, step-by-step physical labor, and months of time. You just can't skip steps. Creation here is spread over time, requiring gradual phases, changing seasons, and physical elements. But, in stark contrast, the afterlife is defined by the text as the realm of power, or absolute capability. In that theoretical realm, creation requires no passage of time, no sequential steps, and no prior physical materials. It's pure, instant execution. If the realm of wisdom is like meticulously building a house brick by brick, the realm of power is like a line of software code instantly executing a massive program in a fraction of a millisecond. When you synthesize these arguments, you arrive at the core thesis of the text, and it's honestly awe-inspiring. The miraculous sudden resurrection, that idea we so often struggle to logically comprehend, is actually modeled right in front of our eyes. The source asserts that we are already watching the mechanics of a massive revival play out as a totally ordinary natural event every single year. The fundamental issue isn't that resurrection is impossible to visualize, it's that we've become blind to it. We fail to recognize the magnitude of the event because the sheer scale and speed of spring have become totally normalized to us. You know how it goes? Familiarity breeds indifference. Because the trees bloom every single April without fail, we stop viewing it as the staggering reconstruction of billions of entities, and we just view it as background scenery. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what we see in ancient theological texts that engage directly with this observable cycle. The source points to a specific verse from the Quran, chapter 22, verse 5. The text paints a highly vivid picture here. It describes the earth in its lifeless, seemingly dead winter state, followed by a sudden, vibrating emergence of life. Just listen to the words used: quivering, swelling, and growing beautifully paired plants. That perfectly captures the immediate biological reaction the moment water is introduced as a catalyst. The source uses this physical, undeniable reality of the biological cycle of death in winter and sudden life in spring as a direct bridge. It takes something anyone can observe in the dirt beneath their feet to contextualize these massive, unseen concepts of life, death, and sudden absolute revival. So, as we wrap up our explainer today, I want to leave you with a profound, lingering thought directly inspired by this text. The next time you walk past a tree that is just starting to bud after a long, freezing winter, take a closer look. Really think about the billions of invisible mechanisms firing at once, pulling water up from the deep earth, synthesizing complex compounds perfectly on cue. According to this framework, you aren't just looking at the weather getting warmer. You are watching a biological model of massive reconstruction happening right before your eyes. So, does it still just seem ordinary? Take that perspective with you and see if it forever changes the way you look at a blooming tree right outside your window.